Ooh, what's up, YouTube? My name is Mistic, and welcome to Mistic Reacts. Today, we have another video by TierZoo, and if you're new here, I don't like spiders. They are one of my biggest fears. So, what better video to watch than Are Spiders Overpowered? Now, I don't think they're that deadly, the majority of them. I just hate them. They're so hard to keep track of. Like, they're so tiny, but terrifying. So, let's get into it. Check out his video down below. And yeah. Yeah. I don't know
This
how people
episode
like
was
spiders.
sponsored by War Thunder.
Okay.
Arthropods have been one of the most dominant factions in the game since pretty much the very beginning. The safety provided by their tough exoskeletal armor gave the arthropod player base a lot of room to experiment with new builds. One of the most successful examples is the Spider, a unique arthropod build with a whole arsenal of powerful abilities. But just how broken are spiders? Today, we're discussing their stats, their special abilities, and their matchups to demonstrate just how overpowered they truly are. But before we talk about all of their busted attributes, first we have to talk about the least overpowered thing about them, their base stats. While spiders are some of the most effective predators the game has ever known, it's not because their raw stats are anything special. In fact, if anything, their stats make them look pretty pathetic at first glance. There's a common misconception that spiders are, like, absurdly strong for their size. And although they can indeed lift things 10 times their own body weight, that's honestly not even par for the course when it comes to their weight class.
I hate
the real kings of the strength
those
category,
bugs too.
builds like the ant and beetle, are several times stronger. In fact, much of the spider's skill set is tailored around allowing spiders to take down large prey without needing to be strong enough to physically restrain it themselves. Defensively, things are even worse. Spiders have some of the worst armor of any arthropod. Despite being more closely related to scorpions, their exoskeleton is more akin to that of a soft, plump caterpillar than anything else. Their weak point is completely unarmored and difficult for the spider to guard against. Any direct attack from a predator can easily one-shot them. Their stealth is their only good stat, with the rest of them being mid at best. Of course, that is on average. Some spider builds do specialize in mobility or raw strength, which I talked more about in my spider tier list video. Anyway, the point is, what makes spiders broken is not their stats, but their abilities. Spiders have access to a vast array of powerful perks that dramatically elevate their survival and combat capabilities. Real quick, let's go over some of the minor ones first. The spider's appendages may seem pretty unimpressive, and sure, compared to a scorpion's claws or a locust's legs, they're nothing special. But a few things. They do have small claws at the end, which grant spiders excellent climbing mobility. And similar to a lizard's tail, a spider's leg can snap off if hit by a grappling attack in order to escape a combo. Unlike the lizard, though, losing only 12% of your legs is a lot less of a sacrifice than losing your only weapon. Many players don't even have the nerve to mess with spiders in the first place, though, because of their next ability, Venom. With a few exceptions, every spider relies at least partially on Venom to bolster their combat strength. This gives their attacks bonus damage.
The only spider that I don't absolutely hate with every fiber of my being is Longlegs. Because they can't do shit, and they're also super easy to spot. That's the only reason why I don't hate them. And probably because I grew up around them and like handled them a lot when I was younger. But they're so much bigger and they're like absolutely harmless, and they get the other spiders. So those are the only ones that I actually like, are the long legs.
Making it a useful deterrent on defense. But more importantly, their venom inflicts the paralysis status effect, immobilizing their prey so that it can be more easily carried and consumed. Because of how low the spider's base power stat is, this venom often needs to be extremely potent, able to immediately incapacitate its target, giving it no chance to counterattack or escape. Okay, but enough beating around the bush. All of those abilities pale in comparison to the spider's signature special ability, spinnerets. On this channel, there are a handful of abilities that I bring up over and over as being meta-definingly broken. Tool use, flight, eusociality, echolocation, color change, these all can make or break a character's placement on the tier list. I think silk spinning belongs in this same category. This ability is how spiders broke the game. It is one of the most versatile abilities of all, with applications spanning nearly every aspect of survival, from mobility to offense to defense to tons of niche utility use cases. Let's break it down. The most well-known use is, of course, the standard web trap.
Yeah.
A spider player will construct a sticky, net-shaped trap and simply wait for an unsuspecting player to accidentally...
I've ran into those so many times. Like, either, like, walking, or, like, it's somehow appearing in my house. I hate webs. And then, like, when you walk through them, you're terrified. What if a spider was in there? Is it on me? Where is it? Where is it? Get off of me. And then you never know. And then the spider web comes back a few days later.
fly in. Contact with the web immediately inflicts the restrained status condition, which is pretty much instant GG's versus a build that can one-shot you if it lands a hit. But trapping prey really only scratches the surface when it comes to the utility of silk and spinnerets. I'd argue the ability to spin webs buffs literally every aspect of spider gameplay and completely negates all the shortcomings of their stats. In general, spiders are not all that nimble. Their large abdomens are fairly cumbersome, and without wings, they're far below average as far as arthropods go. But the amount of additional movement options web spinning gives you is insane. Silk can be used to cross massive gaps with ease. It can be used to completely negate falling damage. It can be used to quickly ascend from a low position. And in some cases, it can even be used to fly, albeit without much directional control, but also without the need for cumbersome wings. Next, let's talk about stealth. While many spiders do have decent camouflage, webs complement their ability to hide in a few ways. The first is just that it enables them to hide in plain sight by positioning themselves away from places that a player would normally check. It's very hard for eyes to focus on something unless they already know the general area to look. So just by nature of sitting in an unorthodox spot, many players will completely miss you. But if a player does detect a spider's presence, there's an advanced technique they can employ to give themselves a better chance to escape. By mashing back and forth on your controller, you can cause the web to vibrate, temporarily granting you the blurred buff, boosting your evasion and making it much more likely that incoming attacks will miss. Webs may be the most useful for boosting the spider's offense. We already talked about the web trap, but there are many more ways a spider can use its webs to increase its odds of a successful hunt. Web traps are most useful against flying builds, but webs can also be cast out as a net to target players scurrying along the ground more effectively, essentially bringing the web to them rather than waiting and hoping they wander in.
I'm a lot
Or
bigger
if you want to
than
get
spiders.
even more extreme, silk can be fired as a sticky projectile to pin down opponents at a safe distance. But you don't need to get anywhere near that fancy with it. Even just the basic concept of using a strand of silk to tether yourself to a surface opens up so many attack options in combat. Let me give you an example. Pouncing strikes are one of the riskiest attacking moves a player can employ in combat. They're excellent for closing distance on a target and dealing damage simultaneously. But if you miss, the momentum from the jump can result in your character ending up in a dangerous situation. Pounce is usually seen as the signature move of the Cat faction. And in those examples, the worst case scenario is usually just putting yourself in range of a counterattack. But for builds in lower weight classes, and especially arboreal ones, whiffing a pounce attack can literally send you falling to your doom. For spiders, this risk is completely negated with a single silk tether, meaning jumping spiders can get super greedy with their attacks without needing to worry about poor positioning.
I know people love jumping spiders because, oh, they're so cute. I don't see it. I don't get it. Like, I love snakes. I don't get spiders at all.
Can even be used to approach from unconventional angles that players aren't used to covering. Great for allowing jumping spiders to attack other spiders' weak points. It really is just an incredibly broken ability, especially for the jumping spider, which can combo silk production with its excellent burst mobility. We're not done though, because silk production can also be used defensively, mainly in the form of base construction. The standard web trap is technically a form of this, though it's probably the least defense-oriented and frankly leaves you quite open to an attack. But skilled players can construct webs in a far more defensive manner if they choose. Styles like the tent web provide much more cover at the cost of visibility.
Is that in the water?
But if you want to really max out your defenses, the trapdoor spider's strategy can't be beat. Rather than using a sticky web to trap its opponents, it instead digs a burrow and uses silk to reinforce the walls and help control the temperature inside, while also laying out a few tripwires on the outside to allow the spider to detect when other players are in range of an ambush.
That's how
it is
that
admittedly
works.
a bit less precise than more active hunting types are, though. Now, if you really want to go crazy with it, most of the spider's usual enemies aren't going to look for you underwater. So if you've got the guts to dive down, you can construct a bell web underwater and use that as your home base while you hunt for fish and tadpoles.
I gotta worry.
It's a
Gotta worry
high-risk,
in the ocean about
playstyle,
spiders
though,
too.
given how many dangerous builds lurk below the surface. Overall, spiders have an incredible array of traits, and with smart play, they can subvert just about all of their weaknesses. However, there are still some vulnerabilities that skilled players can exploit. So let's talk about their
My
matchups.
favorite one is bug spray.
The spider's best matchups are, of course, flying insects. Their wings
not
get easily
bats.
tangled in the web and can get torn up as they try to escape. Getting trapped is almost certainly GG for them. Reptiles may seem like they should have a solid matchup against spiders, and of course, when there are massive size discrepancies, it can be pretty unfair. But for less tanky reptiles, spiders are a huge threat.
Really?
Scale armor is great for blocking slashing damage, but piercing fangs can puncture right through their defenses and inflict devastating venomous bites. This matchup also really helps it sink in just how strong spider silk is, as even medium-sized reptiles can't easily shake it off. Frogs, and
Not
in
the
particular tree frogs,
snakes.
are an especially explosive matchup. Because both frogs and spiders have incredibly low defenses, one wrong move is all it takes. Frogs can easily one-shot spiders, and because of their excellent burst mobility, it's difficult for spiders to evade their attacks. But frogs can also easily get caught in a spider's web while jumping through the trees, and once stuck, a spider can pierce through the frog's paper-thin defenses like nothing, resulting in immediate paralysis. A highly volatile matchup, and surprisingly neutral given the amphibian's low-tier status. Beetles are an interesting case. They are flying insects, but because of their absurdly high power and defense stats, they're a challenge for spiders to overcome even when caught in their web. Their armor is so thick that a spider's fangs might not be able to pierce through, and they're so strong that even when fully enveloped in a web cocoon, they can sometimes tear through. Spider players are often stuck just sitting and waiting for beetles to either free themselves or die of exhaustion. Birds are typically seen as the worst matchup for all terrestrial arthropods, but at the same time, silk web traps are highly effective against flying enemies, and birds are no exception. Webs are strong enough to capture small birds,
That's for the
and
exception,
feathers
though.
offer very little protection
At least
against
I
venomous
am.
fangs. However, if given the chance, birds will pick off an out-of-position spider in an instant, and the bird's armored beak presents no opportunity for the spider to counterattack. Taking out a spider is worth a lot of XP for birds, as they can also steal all of the insects that are trapped in its web. One of the spider's worst matchups is against bats, which is surprising because it's another flyer. This is because the spider's double team technique has to be used on reaction. So, if a spider ever fails to see an enemy coming, it could easily get one-shot before it has a chance to respond. This makes them especially vulnerable to builds with the echolocation ability, as they can strike from total darkness, giving the spider zero chance to detect the incoming attack before it's too late. And lastly, this isn't a matchup per se, but one of the other weaknesses spiders have are storms. Severe weather events affect web-building spiders much more negatively than most characters, as high winds and heavy precipitation can
I
render a
love
web
the rain.
ineffective
All
if
the
it doesn't
bugs
just
go
outright
away.
destroy it. All of this to say, if you take away silk spinning, spiders are actually a real mixed bag when it comes to their viability in the meta. But with access to spinnerets, many of them jump from low mid-tier to high tier, with jumping spiders in particular being arguably top tier. Silk really is just that broken. Knowledge of the enemy's weak points and vulnerabilities is crucial.
Something
for
tells
survival.
me this
This is true
isn't
not just for most combat
an
games,
active
so you can
sponsor.
learn and fight at this epic PvP battles to endless content. The massive bonus pack for Silver Lions, boosted experience. As always, good luck out there.
Hope you enjoyed. I still hate spiders. If you made it this far, tell me the spider type you hate the most. Yeah. Okay. Until next time. Bye.